Bandai has been on a tear with releasing new card games recently. I've joked that it's just like the early 2000s card game boom, but Bandai seems determined to single-handedly make that a reality. And that brings us to today's topic, a new anime crossover card game similar to Weiss Schwarz and Universes, released after Bandai's third Dragon Ball TCG reboot, but before Bandai's new Gundam TCG. We're talking about Union Arena. Mechanically, Union Arena is based on having a back line of mana generators and a front line of attacking units. The interesting design elements come from moving units in and out of the back row to set up extra attacks or protect units when need be. It's genuinely a great base for a card game, although I am a sucker for similar mechanics, and I love what games like Zenonzard, and to a lesser extent Star Wars Unlimited, did with that concept. Union Arena, however, takes a firmly casual stance on how these mechanics should be implemented, as well as with everything else in the game's release. But more on that in a bit. Right now, let's just summarize up the game as a casual first anime crossover card game, with some fun mechanics. I'll tell you straight up that I do recommend this game as a casual hobby. I personally picked it up for that reason, but I strongly advise against picking up this game if you're interested in a competitive experience. This game isn't made for you. There's a lot to get into, but we can roughly break this review down into four main categories: art and collectability, game mechanics, pull rates and prices, and the current release successes and failures with future plans. Let's start by going over the mixed bag that is this game's art. Wait, before that, please do subscribe. I need something to make up for the loss I took when buying Union Arena boxes. Oh, I did not remotely break even. The first thing you'll see when opening a pack of Union Arena is a simple anime screenshot. Unfortunately for Bandai, this is the worst possible way to make a first impression. It's lazy, low effort, and honestly looks bad for most cards, even if the resolution of the print itself is higher quality than the blurry mess of Weiss Schwarz. Surrounding this screenshot is honestly a fantastic card border. It's straight out of the early 2000s. There's two parts to this border. There's a standard Union Arena frame with all the specific information, like color, cost, and trigger effects. It's so clean and simple. But the much more interesting part of the frame is the unique texture specific to each anime. It's that peak fantasy aesthetic taken straight out of early Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh!, and Dot Hack Enemy. Of course, it's not as wild as it used to be. Just compare the early 2000s Bleach borders to Union Arenas. It's tempered by 20 more years of game design and failed card frames. But they do keep that original fantasy that's missing from a lot of modern designs. And it looks especially good when it comes to this game's foil SRs. And that's where this game's original art is. They knock out the text box, add a slight texture foiling, and give a wide spread of amazing backgrounds that change in style depending on the anime. It's double amazing when you look at anime full arts. Like, genuinely top tier. I'll highlight the Bleach alt arts, which use that classic Bleach magazine style. So, it's ultimately a mixed bag on art. The anime screenshots will bury this game as a cheap cash grab in the minds of most people, which is a massive blunder on Bandai's part. Looks matter endlessly more than mechanics in a lot of people's eyes, unfortunately. People don't like collecting garbage. If they want to see screenshots, they might as well just rewatch the original anime. I remember when Moist Critical reacted to my review of the One Piece TCG. He more or less ignored my criticisms of the gameplay and went straight for attacking the cheap screenshots used in the early sets of One Piece.
This is just a screen cap from the anime.
Opponent's
Looks like it is. Fuck, that's lazy. Holy shit.
And I mean, to be fair, my review was weak and it's not great, I change it now. But those weak arts, which are the first thing Charlie saw, stopped him from picking up the game until like 6 sets later. And this is the story that you'll see with a lot of people. And it's a shame because we want each card game community to be as successful and as large as possible. That brings us to this game's specific mechanics. Let's look at the game's mana system and see what it means for how the game plays. This game uses a double mana system, a hard locked number of action points each turn, and an energy system that you build up by throwing units to the back row. The action point system is simple and clean. It's a hard limit on the speed of this game, and enables a ton of balancing options and spicy plays. The game gives every deck 4 copies of their own final event to get a little extra energy on key turns. It's a fun way to mess with tempo, and it rewards players for knowing when to drop it, to push ahead, or quickly catch up. The energy system is a bit different. It's tied to the number of energy symbols on units in the back row, so you have to play a unit with an energy cost of 0, and then you can start to build up from there. The energy system is a bit whack because it requires you to draw enough low cost and 0 cost units to play your deck at all. It's exactly like not seeing lands in Magic the Gathering. So you'll often just lose games to factors you can't fully control. Hopefully this gets better as new cards release, but man, it sucks to see a new card game that chose not to fix mana starving and flooding. It's like the #1 thing new card games try to fix. I don't know what Bandai was thinking here. Interestingly enough, units in the mana line can be pulled out of the back row to attack. You can either do this at the start of your turn, or through the special mechanic called Raid. Pulling units out of mana is amazing pressure, plus it lets you play a unit in back row first to give it some protection until it restands. It of course takes away from your next turn's power level, since you need to again set up new mana. It's a simple trade-off that's quite fun. Raid is the mechanic that lets you overlay a raid unit on top of a non-raid unit with the same name from back row, then move it to front row ready to attack. Raid is stronger than normal movement because it happens during the main phase, is less costly on mana, and can set up to throw attacks out of nowhere. Raid units tend to be very strong, and a lot of decks right now are built around them. Or well, I guess every deck is built around them. Future-proofing. Now let's talk about the unfortunate nature of this game being a trigger or luck-based game. You have a life stack with the ability to trigger powerful effects from life when taking damage. Everything from removal, to free cards in hand, to even raiding on the opponent's turn. It just adds in the already titanic amount of luck that this game has to deal with. Mana starving, needing to see top end, and triggers on top of that. It's only slightly less luck-based than Vanguard. It's not going to be the end of the world for the average player, but it might be the end of the world for most competitive players. And I can really safely say that this game isn't at all designed around being competitive. And it gets much worse with this game's events and this game's balancing being kind of awful. Before we get into that, let's look at some of the deck-specific mechanics that we've seen so far from the first 2 sets. Which, of course, being so early on in this game's run, it's a lot of basic effects. Hunter x Hunter has most of its cards being based around hitting huge numbers and gaining keywords. Kurapika gives himself Smite for specific unit hate, Gon gives Impact, and Killua gives double damage. It's very straightforward and a simple setup and go, with the activation requirements changing every deck, like blue needing to see unique copies of each card type, and green just needing to get the energy out to see its top end. Purple Hunter x Hunter is a lot more interesting. The Zoldycks are all about janky single target removal and getting value for it, and the Phantom Troop is all about reusing effects for easy value. Purple Hunter x Hunter is very fun, but it's definitely held back from a set 1 theme. This is personally what I've been playing the most of. As someone who likes coping on weaker decks in every game, it's perfect for me. Bleach has a lot more interesting stuff going for it. Yellow Bleach throws out a ton of stun effects. Green Bleach is all about setting up enough 13 court guards to get out massive effects. And Purple Bleach gets to gain powerful effects by banishing cards from grave. Of course, this means the deck also has a ton of cycling to make up for it. This is where the question of game balance comes into play. Right now, Purple Bleach, Kurapika, and Green Bleach are considered the best decks. It leans heavily on the first 2, but it's still very in favor of Bleach as a whole. It's a fine meta, but this wasn't the case at all in Japan. If you're not aware, the Japanese release of Union Arena saw Bleach having 2 additional cards, a Rukia 0-drop that milled 2 on KO, and an Orihime that milled 2 on play. This solved every issue the deck had, and enabled easier access to its 2 best cards in effect. Hunter x Hunter had 6 less cards in the JP release, including 3 vanillas, but more importantly a Killua, Kurapika, and Gon that gave setups to each of the main themes for Hunter x Hunter. These changes led the Japanese release meta to be a tier 0 around Purple Bleach, with every Hunter x Hunter deck being practically unplayable. It's definitely a good thing that these changes were made for the English release. Lord knows we can't give Western players anything, but it really shows what level the original designers are at when making sets. Because there are several other 1 best deck formats coming up after Bleach. There's Code Geass and Idolmaster. And it's not terrible, but it's also not super great for people who like balanced games. Dealing with a brutal ban list is really mean. Of course, the hope is we get sets balanced specifically for the English release. After all, Union Arena is a whole year ahead in Japan. We have all the data we need to make this game better, and it's what they've done for the first 2 sets. There is hope that this will continue, and it'll be a lot better for everyone. But you are gambling around Bandai. Oh yeah, I almost forgot to mention, Union Arena is getting a new set every month, each month. So what's in this game changes absurdly quickly. It's the fastest new card game release schedule I think I've ever seen. On one hand, it's great because you'll very quickly be able to get whatever new IP you're waiting on, and there are some bangers releasing. It keeps the game fresh and hopefully constantly growing, which is what's kind of happened in Japan, although that's weird and we'll get into that later. However, it's also very stressful as someone who's very hesitant towards power creep. But they are at least giving old decks regular support with second sets and special promos. Just be aware that this is an IP crossover game, so you could be like Kill La Kill and Weisschwartz, which waited 8 years for new support. Now, here's the fun part where I get to talk about prices and pull rates. For about $70 to $80 a box, you get 4 to 6 SRs. In my experience, it was always at least 5, but it can go lower, or so I'm told. There are 12 SRs to pull from, so it's meh to see what you want, and it's gonna really take a case to get good playsets. The scuffed part comes from this game's alt arts, where it's only guaranteed to be 1 per box. A second alt art can happen, but I don't know if the odds are that good. It's 1 foil Dawn and 1 2-star alt art per case, so it's very rough to see alt arts for some key cards, and it sucks because there's no in-between middle rare. Overall, these pull rates kind of suck and don't encourage much pack opening, especially since most of this game's prices are abysmally low. I opened 3 boxes and lost about $150. Plus, I still had to order like $100 in singles to complete my playsets. And I know that's standard for like a weaker and flopping card game, but it's not good. So buy singles if you're going in, it's like $30 a deck that way. And if you're buying one of the best decks, it's still going to be like only $100. As of early October, the only 2 decks with any cards above $5 are Purple Bleach and Karapika. I like cheap prices, but I don't think these prices are low on the game's own terms, if you know what I mean. I personally would have doubled the alt arts per box, guaranteed, and probably the high rarity stuff per case. 2 foil Dawn per case and, 2 of the signature alt arts would make it just a bit better for players trying to open these. Plus, we really need to show more foils off in general to get rid of the whole screenshot aesthetic, right? Let's answer the overall question that a review necessitates. Is Union Arena actually fun, and would I recommend it? Yeah, it's pretty fun. It's a perfect casual game, and the prices are low enough to fit that niche. I've got into it because my local playgroup is nuts about any Bandai game, and I like spending time with them. Plus, I have friends who I play dead card games with, and it's just right up their alley. Between games of Dot Hack Enemy and the Inuyasha TCG, Union Arena just kinda fits. One of the many sources of problems with this game comes from its competitive events. Outside of a few Bandai Card Fest and championships, there are no planned regional level events for Union Arena. There's barely any special local level events as well, and what they do have is kind of bad. Union Arena, instead of having store championships like One Piece, has struggle battles, which are tournaments exclusively locked to one theme, and they change with each new release. It's a fun casual event, but it kind of sucks because you have to constantly buy the newest product to enter. Most people won't do that, and quite a few of these IPs are going to be dead on arrival. For example, we can look at the disparity between the current English release of Hunter x Hunter and Bleach. The Bleach events I've seen have filled up pretty much everywhere, but there are only about 1 to 4 people for each Hunter x Hunter event. I was able to walk into these and get a winner Karapika just for showing up, and honestly I'm kinda bummed just not getting to play. But yeah, only casual local level events, the most inconsistent special events, and almost no competitive events. That's hard to recommend to most players. So only pick it up if you like casual chill events. So what's this game's future look like? I think, meh. It's Bandai's second weakest card game, only ahead of Battle Spirit Saga, and well, maybe one of the flop Dragon Balls, but I don't even know what you're gonna call that at this point. In Japan, this game flopped hard on release, which makes sense because Bleach and Hunter x Hunter aren't that massive of brands at the moment. And I love Hunter x Hunter, but it's not 20 years ago. Same with Bleach. They should have added in Jujutsu Kaisen from the start, instead of waiting a month. Well, at least over the next year, it managed to slowly build up sales. Wait, I read that backwards. They lost half their sales. Never mind, we might be cooked, guys. That being said, I don't think it's entirely over for Union Arena. You see, Union Arena managed to do something very funny when it first released. It managed to completely nuke every competing anime crossover game out of the market. Weiss is down dramatically as well. And by virtue of losing every IP, Universus is in the gutter. And I know it's bad because Universus has stopped offering these sponsorships. It's a complete market kamikaze that's super beneficial for Bandai, since their only non-Big 3 competition is now in the gutter completely. Bushiroad was already hurting massively with the failure of Shadowverse, and their massive shrinking of Vanguard in the West. Taking away their money printer is a brutal move. I mean, look, they've already poached some of Weiss's heavy hitters. Sword Art Online, that time I got reincarnated as a slime, and Idolmaster. Bandai is already 100% willing to take a loss on card games for any reason. See their long history of failures and their refusal to kill weak and dying games like Dragon Ball. I'm sure they'd flop to take someone else out with them. And besides, they do have some amazing IPs lined up in the future. Fullmetal Alchemist is one I'm excited for, but we've also got picks like One Punch Man, My Hero Academia, and Nike, the big booba one. It's possible, but very unlikely that Bandai manages to stumble into some actual success. And at least I hope they do. I'd like something good to come out of this card game. I feel bad for the stores that will have tons of unsold product on their shelves. Oh well. Same thing as always. Smart stores will be able to handle this, and dumb ones will lose from it. Which is very sad, but it is what it is. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.